your hand if you've heard a story. Oh, wow. I don't even need to tell you. I can just leave now. Raise your hand if you've been to story. All right, we can work on that. All right, so raise your hand if you haven't been to story. There's like no one in the room. I mean, who hasn't heard of it. All right, then I'm going to talk really fast because you know the story is story, and then I'll get into the new stuff. So for those who don't know, it's a 2,000 square foot space in Chelsea on 10th Avenue and 19th Street. And this concept is a space that has the point of view of a magazine. We reinvent it entirely every 4 to 8 weeks like a gallery, and we sell things like a store. And so in launching a brand that is versatile and engaging and always changing but constant, we were kind of thinking, how do you build an identity around that? And so we partnered up with Stefan Sagmeister and Jessica Walsh to work on our identity. And what they were able to do is take the O in story and make it parentheses so that we were able to constantly change but build a brand that had a point of view. So when you walk into our store, you're greeted by the sign, and it tells you what story you're in. So this is our wellness story, our making things story, home for the holidays story. All in all, we've now done 20 stories. And at the heart of it, what the concept of the business model really is about retail and media coming together and really exploring, can retail be a media channel? And so this is the cover of InStyle's color issue, and that was the cover of our color issue. At the end of the day, the idea is like a magazine tells stories by taking pictures and writing articles. We tell stories by curating merchandise with a point of view around a certain subject matter and then having events that bring it to life. And then on the flip side, where a magazine has publishing and advertisers, we have sponsors who pay money. So if you open up the magazine and you see an ad from Clinique adjacent to editorial, you'd walk into our store and see an ad from Benjamin Moore next to what that issue is. And so it's really not just about a second revenue stream, but finding someone who's contextually relevant and has authority in a certain subject matter. Benjamin Moore knows a hell of a lot more about color than we do. And then throughout the store, we bring that to life in different ways. Another example of that was our His story. We partnered up with a small company called Procter & Gamble. A couple other companies were Details Magazine and Birchbox. And then in that store, what we would do is we take the new Braun Cool-Tech razor and we bring it to life in the form of a hot towel shave station. So how can you give someone a visceral, tangible, physical brand experience that they can't get online or elsewhere? And one of the things that we spend a lot of time thinking about is not just the economics of our model, right, which is two revenue streams. You have product sales and you have sponsorship. But it's also about the customer experience, because the way you tell a making things story is about making things, not selling things. So 75% of our square footage was pure activity-based. You could laser cut, you could injection mold different things, and it was pretty remarkable. And so we call it experience per square foot. I happened to be in the store when this happened, and luckily had a camera on me, and just democratizing access to different technologies and stories is something we're really passionate about. And I often say our audience is very narrow. It's men, women, and kids between 6 and 80. And then you ask yourself, well, what the heck does an injection molding machine and a laser cutter have to do with a 6-year-old? But you know, you could then do a party where you make pumpkins into Mr. Potato Head, or as I like to call it, pimp your pumpkin. And then you get women excited by laser etching a handbag with Rebecca Minkoff. So the thing that I'm really focused on this year and really excited about is this idea of democratizing discovery and access in a physical world. So what I mean when I mention that, or what that means to us, is we're all used to online discovery platforms like Kickstarter. We're used to selling things online through Etsy. Quirky, making things accessible through invention. Then you have J.Crew and other retailers having events that make different experiences accessible. So the way that's kind of come to life for us at Story is this concept called Pitch Night. So 2 years ago, what happened is so many people were pitching us products in the same way you'd pitch a magazine, an idea for a story. And there weren't enough hours in the day to see them all. So I thought, if you're a maker, a small business, or a designer, what do you want? You want sales, and you want press. And so what we did is we called up our friends at Cool Hunting, and it was holiday time, and I'm like, let's have people come pitch. Maybe you'll find something for your gift guide. Maybe I'll find something for the store. And it's amazing the range of people who pitched. We had, you know, older gentlemen from upstate New York with pottery. We had cards. We had kites shaped like boats, and skincare from New Jersey, and bow ties. Most recently at Pitch Night, actually, we had someone fly from Toronto for Pitch Night. So it's been pretty amazing. And one of my, I have random Rachel theories, is that I think access more often than not is more valuable than money. And it's really amazing. So one of the examples of that is a woman by the name of Beth Mockery. And so this is her necklace. And you're probably like, okay, it's pretty, but what's so special? Well, it does that. It's a hidden message. And I freaked out when I saw it, and she was a structural engineer who had been laid off. It was her passion and her hobby, not her job. She had never sold to a store before. And we put it in the store, and then this woman bought it. And then her name's Whoopi Goldberg. And then after that, it was really the tipping point for Beth. And 2 years later, she is now doing this full time, sold at Fred Segal and other stores. And we continue to do it for most stories. And the cool thing about it is, you know, my whole thing is if you're Zach Braff funding a movie on Kickstarter next to a 16-year-old and you're coexisting next to each other hand in hand in a digital world, why can't we do that in a physical world? Like, and I'm using Whoopi as an example, and I personally don't really, you know, celebrity's not important to me, but it's the idea of really creating access. People are people. It's like my dad said when I was 14. We all get dressed the same way, so the president doesn't put on his pants any differently than we do. And so what happened was, I told Whoopi about Pitch Night after she had bought Beth's necklace and she had come back to the store. She goes, this is so cool. Do you think I could come and like sit in on one? And I'm like, oh, this is really cool. I'm going to make this an experiment. So she actually came to the last Pitch Night, and I didn't tell anyone who was pitching. So I thought, okay, how can we replicate what's online offline? So I didn't pre-qualify anyone. I didn't look at their product. I didn't know who they were. Probably stupid in hindsight. And then everyone showed up, and I told them the story. And then Whoopi ended up walking in. And it was the most magical night of just people meeting people and people who had stories and were passionate about making things and other people who had access to spread that. And people weren't any more nervous pitching. And it was just kind of special. So that's one of the things exciting me these days. And another thing I've been thinking a lot about too is, you know, we market and we communicate and we operate in silos, right? Trade shows are for the trade. Press releases are for the media. Stores are for consumers. But if you reverse engineer it and start with a blank canvas and tell an amazing story, it can be all three. So this was our style and technology story, that style.tech, as Megan named it. We partnered with Intel. And what we do within the store is we have like bios and different signage depending on the story to tell that story. And then we include social media information and brand details for other people. So in thinking about PR, like why does a press release have to sit in an inbox? Why can't you just tell a badass story and have it be pull PR instead of push PR? So someone walked into the store. I didn't know them. It was a reporter from the LA Times. He had never been to a story. This is, by the way, does anyone know about this watch, the Withings Activité? If you don't, by the way, it's a wearable. It was the first kind of original Swiss movement watch that actually tracks sleep, steps, everything. So we had it in the store before it launched. So it was like our living three-dimensional press release. So he came into the store and he saw it and he's like, what is it? He was fascinated by it. It was 2 days before that little product came out, the iWatch. And then he did a review of it in the LA Times, and in his review of the iWatch talked about Withings. And the amount of money people pay PR firms in the hopes of getting that is pretty outstanding, and that just happened by accident. And then when you think about it as a showroom, and we go to trade shows to find new brands, about 10% of the people who come into the store are either people who are looking for new product or for thought leadership, whether it's Nike's innovation team or others. So this is Will Berman, for those who heard his story at PSFK last year. He's the ripe old age of 17. Like every 17-year-old, he's passionate about raw Japanese denim. And we fell in love with him. We put the product in the store. This is an example of the signage I was talking for from our holiday last year. Then we got this email from a really cool concept shop in London. Actually, he got the email and then forwarded it to me. And they found his product at Story, and then they wanted to sell it. So now you have a 17-year-old kid fulfilling a purchase order out of his bedroom shipping a concept shop in London. And that's what it looks like on the table in London. And then, you know, one of the most high-profile denim shops in the country, 3x1 Denim downtown, he is his hero, so we connected them, and now he is being sold at 3x1. And to me, it's not just about access to things and stuff, but it can be technologies. You know, one thing that we're thinking of as we think forward about what we do and how we can iterate is it's the store behind the scenes that's a living lab, right? It's A/B testing, it's new technologies, and so this is Perch Interactive, and Nordstrom found it in our store and then put it in their store. You know, this woman found a bag in the store and then put it on her website. So I'm going to end with the story behind the story that we have open now. It's not really that relevant to the topic of the talk. It's just a really funny story in my opinion. So I was in the store on the first day of our style.tech story. Anyone who knows me, when I'm getting ready for a story, I'm typically in sweatpants. And the store is closed, so that's acceptable. And then the day that the store opened, I was kind of lingering in back and wasn't planning on talking to customers, so wasn't dressed appropriately. And a group of executives roll out of an Escalade. And I said to my team, just go find out who they are. I wonder what company it is. So they came back to me and they're like, it's Target. I said, oh, that's cool. And so I just like randomly walk up to a guy and I'm like, you know, he'll forgive me for being in sweatpants. And hi, I'm Rachel. Hi, I'm Brian. What do you do at Target? Well, we're in Minneapolis. I'm like, I know where you're based. What do you do at Target? We're part of the executive team. So I'm like, okay, he doesn't want to tell me. So I'm like, do you know Tammy? She runs trends at Target. She's here every time. He's like, no, I'm new to the company. So I'm like, okay, he doesn't want to talk to me. So I ended the conversation by saying, I just wanted to say hello. Ever since I opened Story, everyone always said to me, when are you doing something with Target? It seems like the perfect match. And I always said, I will do something with Target when I've done enough stories to know what I'm doing, and when Target's ready to do something they've never done before. So he said, well, why don't you send me any ideas you have? And he hands me his card, and I look down, and it says, Brian Cornell, Chairman and CEO of Target Corporation. And so that was the perfect example, more than anything, to look at my staff and say, you think I'm kidding when I say you never know who's walking through that door? And so, you know, I toured him around the store for 10 minutes. Turns out he had been there before. And at the end, I said, you know, I want to give you a homework assignment. And I want to figure out how we can collaborate. And our biggest story of the year opens in 8 weeks, which, by the way, for Target is like yesterday. And I said, I want to go to Target and find my favorite things and shop Target and then merchandise it in Story with other products, because they haven't done that before. And so he said, do you have time for a call next week? And no, let me check my calendar. I mean, of course I've done it. So long story short, the partnership happened. It's our Home for the Holidays story. There was another picture, but anyways. So what we did is there's 160 independent brands, and then we have over 20 Target brands, ranging from Nate Berkus to Morona and some of the other collections. And it's really looking at merchandise as content and taking a $12 Nate Berkus candle and putting it next to a $90 Diptyque candle. And really thinking about the fact that something sold at Barney's and something could be sold blocks away at Duane Reade, but we shop in both places, so why can't they coexist? So that's my story, and thank you guys for listening.